All right, folks, when you come in tonight, if you will, just go ahead on the right-hand side in the live chat, log in by giving me your first name and the state you're watching from so that we can kind of figure out where everybody is at tonight. I'm going to wait a little while, let everybody come on, log on in for another minute or two, but hope you're out there doing well tonight. It's nice to look outside. And at 7 o'clock, it's still a little bit of light going on out there. That's kind of fun. So if you will, on the live chat over on the right-hand side of the screen, go ahead and put your first name and what state you're watching from. All right, so I've got 7 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I want to start tonight with just a shout out to all our veterans that are out there. Being somebody that hasn't been in the military, something I highly value. I did have a pretty cool experience as a teacher here, coming up on 2 years ago, spring of 2019. I was able to go to San Diego and spend a week going through the training with the Marine Corps, and that was a blast. That was something that, frankly, has kind of changed the way I look at things. Hey, there's Jared from Bloomington, Gerald from East Tennessee. Hi, guys. Thanks for logging on. But back to the Marine Corps thing, that was pretty cool. It was a bunch of teachers. I was 57. I was kind of the oldest guy by a ways, but boy, the things those kids go through. We just had 1 week, and we were able to go back to the hotel room every night, and we knew at the end of this week we were coming home, and a lot of the stuff that we saw the kids going through was just pretty impressive. So got a little story I want to start with tonight that I think you'll find interesting. I'm sure many of you have seen something of this nature before. This is what I think, and I'm a historian, is the most important day, not maybe in just American history, but in world history, June 6th of 1944. If things hadn't gone well, things would have been a lot different. And I've got this tribute here that I won a couple of years ago, and I'm going to try to get the camera up there. You guys can see this picture that's right down here. That is, at the time, General Eisenhower. And I think you're familiar with that picture. If you want to read a pretty cool story, go to my website, flyfishingwithjeff.com, and log in, go to the search tool and hit Eisenhower, and you'll pull up a pretty cool story that will explain to you what that picture was actually about. It's the day before June 5th. It's actually June 5th, and General Eisenhower was talking to a bunch of guys that were going to be dropped behind enemy lines, if you can imagine that, the next day. And one of the things that he was talking to them about, it looks like he's talking military, actually found a young man from Michigan who was a fly fisherman, as was General Eisenhower, President Eisenhower. And that's why he's got his thumb up like that. So if you want a really good read, go to my website, flyfishingwithjeff.com, search Eisenhower, and you'll get several facts that article that I did is in one of the Eisenhower museums, or parts of it are. So it's kind of a cool thing to look for. So anyway, I see some more people popping in. Got William from Central Indiana, James Medlin from Missouri. I figured there'd be a few people, Missouri people out there, and Thomas from Arkansas. Love that area down there. I wish I were a lot closer. You guys have advantage in that Missouri, Arkansas area of just a lot of incredible water. Randy, thanks for checking in from Holland, Michigan. Love it. Oh my gosh, do I love that area up there. I fish the Muskegon a lot, and just have a lot of great memories about fishing the Muskegon, the Pere Marquette, the Manistee, all the great rivers up through Michigan. All right, well, we're going to move on. Thank you for checking in. Continue to do that so that the rest of us can kind of figure out, where you're coming from. John from Springfield. Hi, John. Quote of the week. I'm going to talk to you about a book that I found at our dollar bookstore, which was an awesome buy. The quote of the week says, "Fishermen are born honest, but they get over it." I think that's pretty cool stuff. Fishermen are born honest, but they get over it. And I'm going to do a fly tying demo for you, and I'm going to take a little while to explain this to you. I'm going to try to set the camera up here where you can see this a little bit better. I'm going to demonstrate for you one of my reverse tied bucktail flies. And it's not an easy tie. It takes a little bit of training. If you haven't dealt with it, there's what one of the flies will look like when you're done. And I tie these myself. I like these. If given a fly, especially in the waters of Wisconsin, that would be the fly that I would like to have. In fact, I tie them in several different colors. I tie one in an orange, kind of an orange-green color, like you can see there. And that works well in very clear water, kind of resembles a bluegill. I tie some in yellow if you're in murky water or the water's a little bit stained. But day in and day out, the white fly is the one that really kind of gets the job done. So that's the fly that we're going to tie here tonight. I'm going to try to explain a few things about the fly as we go. So I've already got 2 neck hackle feathers on there, and you'll have to find the right color. And it's pretty important to find a neck hackle that works in the color scheme. These are gray and white, and I've got those on a B10S. I'm sure you're all familiar with that fly from Gamakatsu, the B10S Stinger. Love that. But you could put it almost on any wide gap fly. And I've got it tied on with what I have here is 3/0, and this just happens to be tan because that's kind of what I was using earlier when I was tying. So the first thing we're going to do tonight, hi McNutt family from Russellville. Good to see you guys there. I know who that is for sure. I'm going to go to pink, and these are all bucktail colors, and I'm going to pull off just, not much, maybe a half a pencil worth of pink bucktail. And when I tie it on this time, I'm going to tie it backwards on the fly, not reverse tied. Okay. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to place that at the front. Now, here's the thing. You can't pull too hard on these fibers or they'll start to splay. And that's not what we want. So I'm going to come back to the back. Once I get back, I can start to tighten up a little bit more as I've done right there. Now, I'm going to push with my thumb there and allow that fiber, those pink bucktail fibers, to turn all the way around, probably half, maybe over half the circumference of the hook itself. And that's the first layer that we're going to go with. Next, I'm going to come in with gray. This is a shad gray bucktail, and we're going to tie these backwards. Reverse tie this. So again, about a half a pencil, maybe just a little less. I think some of what I've learned through the years is less is the way to go. Too much bucktail creates a big problem. So I'm going to turn the bucktail around now. I'm going to move my thread forward just a little bit. And I got probably a 1/2 inch from behind the thread here. And I'm going to come in with a couple of 3 loose wraps. And again, I'm going to turn those fibers, if you can see what I'm doing here, turning those so that they go around about half the shank of the hook. Now I'm going to tighten down a little bit more. And now I'm going to fan those backwards, and there's where the reverse tie comes in. And this is when I can fix things if it's not quite right. Now I'm going to come back with my thread, not pulling too hard. Okay, and again, I can kind of fix some things at this point. We want those fibers to fill in and fan backwards. Okay, so we've got that on. I'm going to move my thread up to the next locale, and I am going to go with a piece of black. Okay, black bucktail, and I'm doing the same thing again. Again, black sometimes acts a little bit different. I'm not sure why, but it does. And I'm going to come in and get maybe just a little less than I had in the other two. Clip off a piece and pull the loose fibers out. And again, I'm turning it around and I'm heading it backwards. A couple of loose wraps 3 times. Now I'm going to again push down and move those fibers all the way around. Okay. Tighten down one more time, and now I'm ready to push the fiber, the reverse tie backwards. Okay, and this is when you have to continue to kind of clean it up. And we're going to come back in, put a couple of loops, grab any extra bucktail fibers up front, and tighten those down. So now I've got 2 layers, and again, I'm checking to make sure that those fibers are wrapping about the upper half of the circumference of the fly. Whoa, well, that was bad. Went too hard on my thread there, and sometimes that happens. You can go with a little bigger thread, but it puts too much bulk is what I found. So let me find my, sorry about that. Let me find my little gizmo here, and we'll run it back through here real quick. Things like that happen if you tie very much. Okay. And if you're like me, it's rough when your eyes start to go. All right. So we're back in business here. We'll start that wrap over again and move that thread forward. Okay. And lastly, now we're going to come in with white. And again, what it looks like here doesn't really matter because it's all going to be hidden. So we're going to grab white now, white bucktail, and again, we're looking at about maybe half a pencil, and that's going to be plenty. If you go more than that, it's going to create too much bulk, and it's not going to turn over for you correctly. So again, reverse the fibers. We're going to come in, give a couple of loose wraps so that we can turn those around the hooks itself, and we're going to start to tighten down. This is when your rotating vise will kind of help out. We're going to tighten down one more time, and now we're going to put those guys backwards. Okay, clean it up a little bit, make sure that this is when you can do the fixing. Move the thread forward, and at this point in time, I like to come in with a little bit of flash right at the top. So I'm going to pick up, I've got a few extra fibers here, and I'm not really I don't care about how organized those fibers are. I'm going to come in once over the top with those, pull them backwards, tie those in, and spread them out. We've got a couple that are loops, so we're just going to take our scissors, cut those loops, and that's what you want it to look like. You want those fibers to lay backwards, okay? And we're ready for one more. We're going to go one more pop with the white bucktail. And about a half a pencil again is going to be plenty. Clean those fibers up a little bit. Now we're going to turn it around. We're going to run it backwards. We're going to put our finish wrap on here a couple of times, 3 times. Now we're going to start to turn those fibers again around the upper half of the hook itself. Tighten down one more time, and we're going to turn those back over, gather up all those fibers. So you can see the fly starts to take its shape. All right. Now, again, before I get too far, I'm going to make sure that I've got those in there right. And I'm going to run forward. Put a little more thread, build up a head here for you. You could put another wrap or 2 forward on this one, but I'm going to stop right there. I kind of like the looks of that. And still got some guys checking in. Thomas, William, Brandon, Bill Dixon from Bloomington. Hey, Bill. Awesome. We're going to do a quick wrap here and drop that off like so. Now, one of the things I do, if you've watched any of my tying videos, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, is I've got a product called Bondique. And if you're not familiar with Bondique, okay, that's what it looks like. It comes in a nice little tube. It for me is the best head cement going, and I don't do a lot. What I'm going to do right now is just carefully put a little bit on top of the wrap right here, okay, like so. Turn it over to the belly of the fly. A little bit more to keep those, in case you get a pike or something like that on there, they won't tear up the threads. Put the Bondique away. Got to be careful with the Bondique out in the sunshine, because as soon as the UV hits it, it's set. Okay, bring your torch in, and you have a fly. Now, there are no guarantees or anything, but I'm telling you, this is one of those flies that really works well with smallmouth. Okay, so you get the front on look, you can kind of see what it looks like there in a profile. And the part that I like when you get to the point when you know you're doing it right is this is all going to be filled in nice and loose, but it's going to be filled in. There won't be any hollow points. Okay, so give that fly a try. Trust yourself with it. Be willing to make some errors and mistakes, and I think you'll see that that fly will really fish well for you. I fished this below a sink tip 1 line, and I like to cast, especially with smallmouth, not 45 degrees, but maybe just under 45 degrees, and allow the belly of my line then to start to pull this fly down and around boulders, any kind of structure that smallmouth are going to be in, and then just hold on. If you're fishing it up north, like in the Wisconsin area, then you're going to have to probably fish this on some type of thin metal leader, or go to very heavy tippet, 30 to 50 pound, or maybe bigger, because every year I get ruined by a few muskies up in that country. So, yep, swing that for steelies. Actually, Bill made a comment there. I caught a steelhead on that fly on the Muskegon a couple years ago. And yep, it's a Gamakatsu. Again, real quickly, Gamakatsu 1/0. But you can use any kind of fly that you want as long as it's got the wide gap. Gamakatsu makes a lot of the saltwater flies, and that gives it a little bit more bulk, a little bit more weight to it. I like those. But probably the thing you're going to have to do is find a nice collar neck hackle to start with. And you didn't see me do that, but I always try to pick 2 that are the exact same feather. And I don't put them back to back. You can kind of splay those a little bit with your thread itself. And that gives that an awesome movement down through the water. So there it is. There's the fly for you this week. Let's see, what do we have next? Oh, I've got something real fun for you here. We've got a half price books here locally, and I love the place. I found this book the other day at half price books for $3. Okay. I cannot recommend a book more than this. This isn't just a book of pictures. It's got all the great fly fishing writers with little, I would call them short to medium stories. Okay. Friends on the Water, Fly Fishing in Good Company. It says photographs by R. Valentine Atkinson. Okay. If you want a good book, go to try to find that. It's even better book if you can get it for $3. Okay. And not have to pay the $35 original fee. Okay. I want to read just a little bit. I don't like reading to people and I don't want to be read to, but this incredible story in here. And I think you'll enjoy the picture if I can get it up here. Take a look at that picture for just a second. See those old guys? Does that look like your grandpa, your uncles, and the way it used to be? This story is called The Fishing Car by John Gierach. Now, if you guys know John Gierach, you know, I love his stuff. He writes with some texture and some flavor. So I'm not going to read this all to you because it's too long. And I wouldn't want to offend you by reading to you, but I do want to read a little bit of this. I feel like I'm back in my classroom for a second, but I want to read this to you, and so you kind of get the flavor of the writing itself. It says, when I was a young feller, that hits home because actually that was what my dad used. His word was feller. Uncle Leonard had invented the concept of the fishing car, the elderly but still serviceable vehicle that was reserved for angling and angling-related activities, to the extent that it was kept loaded, like the shotgun behind the kitchen door. Now, I actually have a fishing car. If you've seen some of my videos, my old gray Suburban is always got a float tube and fly rods and snack bars and things like that in there. And so it's pretty much ready to go. But then I thought Leonard had invented a lot of things, some of which have since turned out to be among the oldest jokes in the world. It's understandable, I guess, in matters pertaining to fishing, not to mention farming, guitar playing, and a number of other things. He had the authority that comes from experience, and I was also into a bit of adolescent hero worship. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and if you're older guys like I am, you know, I know the the only person I really ever went fishing with a lot as a kid was with my dad, and in fact, I still fish the same little stream down in Lawrence County where I caught my very first smallmouth at 11, 12 years old. I will tell you that it was on a minnow, and that kind of embarrasses me a bit, but it's still the same fish and the same genetics. It says the idea of the fishing car spoke to me of a way of life. It was the thought that you could be a sportsman in the same way you could be a Baptist or a farmer or a blonde, that being a fisherman could be as much a part of your identity as your fingerprints. And I was at the age where I just started to puzzle over my identity. The fishing car in those days was the Ambler. Very cute. It had actually once said Rambler in chrome letters on the hood, but a minor run-in with a fence post had resulted in the abbreviated version. Of course, there was no thought of having it fixed. So again, I'm not going to read to you and bore you with all this, but if you really want a good book and you can find this one, I've read probably about half of it now, and there's not a dud story as of right now. So I got this one at half price books. I'm reading some of the questions. So anyway, there you go. All right, up next for tonight, fly fishing signs by my wife. If you guys will go to my website, you'll see that she's doing some fly fishing signs. You can see there's one over my shoulder up here that she made for me. And I'll get out of the way and let you see there's another one right here that says Gone Fly Fishing. And there's a whole batch of those on my website, along with other signs that she's doing, all handcrafted, hand painted. It's like living in a factory around here, guys. Things are going on all the time, so you have to turn the TV up a little bit louder once in a while. But it's really, she does a great job with them. So if you're looking for a way to get out on the stream, you might want to invest in one of those. So take a look at those. I'm reading. Oh, believe it or not, here's bass fly fishing from South Korea. Hi, South Korea. I'm not sure what time it is. I'm not going to try to do the math in my head, but that's got to be pretty late over there or early. I'm not sure which one. Anyway, check out the fly fishing signs for me. Discussion about small water sportsmen. If you can see my hat, take my hat off and show my bald head. That is Small Water Sportsman. It's a new online magazine that came out just this last fall. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it. Bass fly fishing, 9:20 a.m. Korea. Okay, that's pretty early. That's pretty cool. Zach Wharton is the editor, and I've already had a couple of my videos on there. If you aren't yet with Small Water Sportsman, look, it's free. That's the best four-letter word in the English language. So go on there. It doesn't take anything but an email address. Log on. You'll get a magazine sent to you once a month. I think I've still got a couple of things that are going to be coming up on the magazine in the future. So if you want to see more of my stuff, but I asked Zach kind of what his goal was, and he said, our goal with Small Water Sportsman is to highlight the simplest aspects of fishing, that it doesn't matter what gear you have or don't, or what kind of waters you have access to, enjoy the outing and the experiences. I thought that was an awesome answer. I don't know if Zach's out there. If you are, log on and let me know, but if not, he said he was going to check in. That's really the reason I started this whole thing, fly fishing with Jeff, about, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, because while there's nothing wrong with flying to Patagonia to catch anadromous fish, I would love to do that. Most of us don't have the ability to do that, and we certainly can't do that all the time. And if we can't do that all the time, what are we doing on a daily basis? And that's what Small Water Sportsman is about. It's a lot of different videos and articles on the everyday fisherman and how to better find good things around you. In fact, I watched a video. It's called Frozen Boots. You can, once you sign up after this, please go sign up and check it out. It's kind of a cool little video. It's only about 5 minutes. These guys were fishing at 12 degrees. If you've ever been out at that temperature, you know that your rod's going to ice up, and the line's not going to flow. I saw a nice bow and arrow cast in there, which not everybody knows what a bow and arrow cast is. If you don't, you'll figure it out. And I learned that it's where you fish and not what you catch. Sometimes getting skunked is okay as long as you're fishing with good friends. So check Small Water Sportsman out. They have hats like this that are on sale now, some other items and merchandise. So jump right on in there, and that's a freebie. You can't go wrong with that. All right, let's talk just a little bit. I had a question about fly lines, and so I want to get to that. First of all, there's a million different brands, Scientific Angler and such and so on, and I like the Rio. That's what I always fish with, and I'm going to talk to you about the 3 different kinds. There's floating and sinking, and there's full sinking, okay? That's basically it. I know that there are going to be some versions of that kind of get hybridized in there, but floating obviously is pretty simple. You're going to have a line that's going to float on top, and you can use that for streamers or poppers or dry flies or anything of that nature. Usually today it's double tapered, meaning that if you really wanted to and you wore out one end, you could take it off, turn it over, and you'd have the same fly line on either end. Let me save the floating sinking for last, but the other one is full sinking. And if you've never used the full sinking line, you might say, well, what's it good for? I find that it's good for fishing in lakes and ponds. If I get in my float tube and I want that line to go down 2, 3, 4 foot and then start to retrieve and keep that line at that level, that's the right line for that full sinking line. The one that you hear me use all the time is actually floating sinking. And I like the floating sinking 1. Okay, 1 meaning about 1 inch per second. And actually, it's probably closer to 1.5 inches per second. I did write down here that if you're looking for the line that I use, it's made by Rio. It's a floating sinking 1, and it has a 15-foot head. It's sold at Feathercraft in St. Louis, Missouri. And I actually have the number of it is FG207, FG207 in their spring 2021 catalog, and it sells for $99.99. You can, if you don't know all that, then you can go to my website again and put full sinking line, and you're going to get all kinds of floating sinking or full sinking or sink tip. Go to that, and you're going to get all kinds of information in there. But again, floating on top, full sinking down, depending on whether or not you wanted to go with a heavyweight. If you went with a full sinking 6, it would be 6 inches per second. It's going to get that line way down there. I like, again, the floating sinking 1. I found that I can do a lot with it. If I want to go, if I want to fish closer to the surface, I cast downstream. If I want to go a little deeper, I cast cross stream. If I want to go even deeper, I cast upstream, throw an upstream mend. That upstream mend, as it starts to come in, allows that fly to sink and get down in what I call the death zone. So there you go. There's some information on the floating and the floating lines and all different kinds of lines. Mike Heaton says he just subscribed. Yeah, I think if you go back to the Small Water Sportsman, you'll find that that's really a cool magazine. Let me tell you a little bit about Wisconsin guiding and some of what I'm going to be doing. I've been going to the northern Wisconsin area for a long time. And to be quite honest, we fell in love with it so much that my wife and I, we bought land up there this last year. And I'm 4 miles to the St. Croix. I'm 4 miles to the Namakagon, and I'm 3 miles to the Totogic River. 157 river miles in our little county, 800 and some lakes. So if you like fishing, that's the place to be. It's not only just that, it's just a beautiful piece of country with a lot of wildlife, bear, wolf population, all kinds of things to do. I did a little last year, but starting this next year, I'm going to be doing some guiding. And if you've watched some of my videos, fine. If you haven't, go find those on my YouTube channel or by going through the website and put in Wisconsin or the St. Croix or the Namakagon or the Totogic, and you'll see what kind of fishing we're actually going to do there. I see Eric from St. Louis. Eric's over there in Feathercraft country. That's pretty cool stuff. My little blue boats, I have 3 of those, are very personable boats, meaning you're in the water with them and you get a different, I don't know how to describe it to you, but it's much different than a guide boat. You're going to be doing a little bit more of the work, but it's going to be worth it. It's a very quiet way to fish. It's a very efficient way to fish. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like having a 20-inch smallmouth in current and you're fighting it and it's right at your feet. The blue boats allow you to do all kinds of things. You can stand up in those. You can use those as a walker. And it's very easy to cross, and you'll find that you can almost stand up almost anywhere all the time. You can go through the rapids very easy. They're very safe. You can turn around, put your back downstream. I put kick fins on, and now I've got a little trolling boat, little trolling motor, and I'm just banging the stream, banging the side of the stream. So if that's something that interests you, come check it out. Go to my website. There's a piece on there that tells you how to get a hold of me. I'll be starting that probably about the 1st of June. I've already got 1 week filled up. And some of the pricing, up to 2 rods, which would be 2 boats, 3 hours is $150. For a full day, which is six hours, 2 rods is going to be $300. Now, I priced that about, I don't know, 100 to 150 less than the others because I want to make this available to you. I cannot tell you how beautiful an area this is. And if you've not been on one of these dark, stained, tannic rivers and caught smallmouth, or if you choose to try to find a muskie, you're going to catch pike kind of regardless what you try to do. It's just really a neat thing, and I love it. If you're a do-it-yourselfer and you want to just come up and you don't want fly fishing with Jeff bugging you, which I won't be, but I would be helping you, then you can rent one of these, one of my boats at $100 a day. And I think that including a shuttle service is a pretty good price. Lastly, if you're up there and you've got a kayak, a canoe, and you want to go down one of the rivers, give me a call. I'll do a shuttle service and help you out at that point in time. So that's the Wisconsin guiding for smallmouth. Again, I'm not trying to make money here because, to be honest with you, I'm retired, and and I'm glad I am, and we're doing fine. I would like to share that experience with as many of you as possible. And if you've not been out on one of those northern wooded forest rivers, you're really missing out on things. Lastly, casting tips on the single haul. I got a lot of questions. In fact, Keith asked me a question on the first live session that I messed up, was about how do I get distance out of a 3-weight? Watching some of my videos, and I'll tell you what, it's very, very much like your golf stroke. And if you get help with your golf stroke, then you're going to need to get help with your fly fishing a little bit. But the tempo is the same, and it all comes down to weighting. That weight, the pause, the hesitation, the loading of the rod, and that's where it's at. So we're talking about single hauling. That's that first movement. Now, what's a single haul going to do for you? I wrote these down so I wouldn't forget them. What does the haul do for you and your caster for your line? First of all, it speeds that line up. You're shortening however long your arm is in that first haul. Shortening the line, it's speeding the line up. Next, it quickens your ability to pick that line up off the water. Now, one of the things that you have to learn when you're using a floating sinking line, if you cast upstream and you're in the northern woods, those smallmouth are only going to be 3, 4, 5, 10 foot at the most away from shore. They're not going to be out in the middle. Now, I fish Muskegon and some of those other places. I do well catching smallmouth that'll be sometimes 30 foot from shore. Not in the area of the St. Croix. There are too many overhead predators there, and those fish simply won't come out of the cover. So if you want to be effective, you're going to single haul, pick that up, put that fly in there, strip, 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 fish it around a boulder, strip, strip, single haul, pick it up, and put it back in there. And if you aren't yet at that point in time, and we're all at various levels in our fly fishing, learn how to single haul. Do it out in the yard. Go out in the yard. Learn how to single haul, get that line sped up, shorten the line, pick it up, okay? Put the line down. Single haul, pick it up, put it down. Obviously, if you're a double hauler and this is boring you, then don't worry about it right now. But the single haul is the first of the casting steps. Next time or in the future, we'll talk about double hauling. But right now, I'd really encourage you to single haul. One of the things that when I'm fishing a popper, especially if I'm fishing up in the Wisconsin area and I'm making very long casts to keep my everything out, my body, my surface, my sight, everything out of the zone of the smallmouth, I'll make that out. And when I get ready, I've stripped and I've popped a few times and I'm in that area where I've exceeded where the smallmouth is going to come. I have to give that a really hard first haul to get that line up off the water, especially with that popper, or it will drag down. Now, you're not going to ruin the fishing too much, but you're going to move down the river and lose a lot of that ability to fish that cover. And that's what you want to do. So I hope that makes sense to some of you. Again, if you want a question answered, go to the website, flyfishingwithjeff@gmail.com. Send me a question. I'll talk about some of these things in the future. Little tip for you. I guess you're all aware of this, that as of next Sunday, a week from this Sunday, the 14th, we're going to do our time change. I think it's at 2 a.m. in the morning. And so if make sure you set your clocks and make that adjustment. And probably we'll do we will do the next live event on Sunday night, March 21st at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And we'll go through some more of these things. I'm going to show you another one of my flies, one of my streamer flies that it's kind of a hybrid between a reverse tide bucktail and a deceiver fly, if you know what that is. So please go ahead and send me some questions. Check out the signs online. I think you'll love the work that my wife does there. If you want some trout candy flies or some jig-headed flies, if you're one of the guys, especially down in the Missouri, Arkansas area, and you're fishing, they work very well. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, again, look that up on my YouTube. I'll show you a little bit about that. In fact, you can contact me, and I've been mailing those out to guys all over the country. I am a little short on my stock right now, but we'll do the best that we can to give you a set of flies. So I'm going to wind it up. We're at about 40 minutes, and that's kind of what I thought I would try to do each Sunday night. Again, send me some questions. Think about the Wisconsin thing. If you haven't been up there, you owe it to yourself to fish the amazing St. Croix River. And it's just a beautiful area altogether. So I appreciate all you guys checking in all the way down through there. Very, very cool to have the bass fly fishing from Korea all the way from South Korea. Man, that's a very cool thing to do. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and log off here, and I will see you 2 weeks from tonight, 7 o'clock. Send me some questions. Get excited. It's almost fly fishing time. Can you feel it? Woo! All right. We'll see you guys all later. Goodbye.